Welcome to Silent Stacks. Here we focus on silently stacking the bag while navigating uncertainty in real time. Welcome to my channel. I post 3 videos per month, one on the 8th, one on the 17th, and one on the 26th of each month. If you find value in my work, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive right in. All right, so here we have the Bitcoin chart. It's not looking good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but here we are, hanging from a cliff. It's pretty obvious what they're trying to do, the market makers. They're trying to hit a pressure point, and a lot of people are feeling pain from this price action. But let's look at the good thing here. I'm going to turn on the Silent Stacks indicator on the daily, and then right off the bat, I do see we're starting to get divergence. All right, so after the blue moon, we did have the capitulation, printing these red dots. Red dots are usually a magnet that is going to go lower than the red dots, and eventually we rally. We had the trend sell over here, and then we went lower below the red dots. And then once we went below the red dots, we did not print any more red dots. So that's a divergence. If you look over here, we had a red dot here. Eventually we made our way back up. We never tagged green, and that is why this was a magnet. And eventually we came back down with haste, showing a lot of strength to the downside, and here we are. But we are starting to get some divergence, so that's a good thing. Some bullish divergence. And market makers are just doing what they know what to do best. They're reaching some pressure points, getting you to capitulate because accumulation is never pleasant. It's boring. It tests you. And basically, at this point, are you an investor or are you a trader? Because this is the part where they wash your conviction. And if you're not in it for the long haul, you're going to be washed out. And it's by design. This phase is designed to get you to sell. Did we bottom? Well, besides the divergence, there's not much sign of it, but things can change in a few candles. The only good thing that we have right now is the divergence, and we'll have to see what price action reveals to us in the next coming weeks. So at this point, it's about survival. Always have cash in the side, and this is the time to start dollar cost averaging. The funny thing about the accumulation phase is not only is it boring and it tests you, but many people start to project really low. I already see a lot of people targeting the 50 to 40K. That's what I have this marked. It is very possible that we go here. But at that point, you're gambling for it to go low. That's not the investor mindset. If you're in it for the long haul and you're investor first, then dollar cost average is the safer way to do it, quote unquote. So the last time we had an entry on the silent stacks indicator on the macro was over here. Like I mentioned, we don't have much going on. The only thing we do have going on is the divergence. And I just feel like the market makers are going to keep the pressure at these levels because a lot of people are feeling this pressure. All right, so don't let the market makers get to you. This is the part where you have to survive and accumulate as much as you can. On June 18, I did mention here on X, we are close to the end of the bear market in the beginning. I do want to revisit the Bitcoin dominance chart. Here I have the arrow skull of Satoshi, and this is the skull of Satoshi. So this Satoshi was donated to a Bitcoin convention around May 28th of 2025. And ever since then, the Bitcoin dominance has been trending down. We still did not break this structure, so we're still in a 50-50, but I just thought that was interesting. And I'm just here observing. So that tells me that alt has a good chance because alt did not do very well in last cycle. The only one that did good besides Bitcoin was XRP. And this chart tells me that alts are going to pick up some prana, especially Ethereum and XRP, because those are the bigger alts. Now, recapping my last 2 videos, I did mention that Ethereum printed a prepare to buy. So we did print a prepare to buy on June 9, and these do not happen often. All right, and after the prepare to buy, we get the buy signal about 30 to 60 days. So that's what I'm waiting on next. And looking at the other strategy of the silent stacks indicator are going to be the momentum dots. So here we have the red dots representing that the strength is down, and then we had the rally, we had the market structure, and eventually we went below this because this was a magnet. We were never able to tag green from this move, so the tag red had the magnet, and eventually we capitulated below this, creating more red tags. So this shows that the pressure is down. We had a little relief, and now we're testing these red dots, but we're not printing any more red dots. So that's a good sign. We'll just have to wait for the buy signal, and that will put a stamp on where we are in the chart. And then from that buy signal, we could start creating our position and develop more structure. So just like Bitcoin, the only thing that Ethereum has going on right now is the potential divergence. So we'll have to see what happens. But I want to mention what happens after the prepare to buy. So there's two sceneries. Over here, we had a prepare to buy, and then we had a capitulation, a pretty drastic capitulation of 50%, and then we had the buy signal right here, this E right here. That was a buy signal. So you had the prepared over here, and then you had the buy signal here. The other iteration was we had the prepare to buy over here, and then we stayed flat, and then we had the buy signal here. That's why waiting for the print is important. And then here, we had a prepare to buy right here, and then we capitulated, we had the buy signal right here. So what is Ethereum going to do now? Is it just going to hold this zone, or is it going to capitulate? I'm open to whatever. I'm giving it a little bit more time on Ethereum to see what the charts reveal us. And I'm going to wait for a buy signal. And then I'll hold it for about 1 to 2 years or until I start to see the red prints. So for example, from this entry to this entry, it took about 227 days. From this entry to these exits, it took about 120 to 180 days. So from here, we had another entry over here, but eventually took about, yep, 270, 280. That tends to be the number, about 200 days. Here, let's compare here. We had one over here. And then towards this exit, it's about 200 days. And then you could de-risk, and then you could save your capital for other things. But yeah, it's looking messy here, but we're getting some prepared to buy, so that's good to see. And we'll see what the market presents to us on Ethereum. Now XRP is looking a little bit floppy here. We had the red dots over here, and we still do not have any prepare to buy. So this is in the free fall right now. XRP is looking scary, but XRP tends to do that. XRP is usually always look really, really bad before it does something like this. But looking at the solid stacks indicator on the daily, there is no green dots and there's no prepare to buy either. So the last prepare we got here, we marked the local bottom. We did go lower. That's a divergence. And then we popped up. This is the bull market of 2020 to 2022. And then we had the bear market eventually printed green dots over here. So is XRP going to print green dots here? The reason why I'm open to XRP not printing green dots is because of the schematic. We are in a different phase, but at the end of the day, we still did not print any green dots. So let's zoom in here. XRP has been losing every key level. So first we were monitoring the 200 weekly and it was sitting at about 140. It held that for quite a while. This was a key level to hold and eventually pop up towards the 50, and it never did that. So instead we collapsed. The next support would be the bottom of this supply, which was last bear market top, and then the level to hold was about 113, and then we broke down from here. So I was monitoring this 113, and it looks like there is no support here, so the magnet becomes 87, but are we going to go to 87? Who knows? And that 87 is basically this whole monthly supply back from 2018. And that's the bottom of it. And it also aligns with this local top over here. But the good thing about XRP is also the divergence. So here on the silent stacks indicator, we tagged red over here. So that becomes a magnet. Eventually we held. We couldn't pop up to tag green. And then the magnet pulled itself down. And then we went lower than this, creating more red dots to pressure down. And then we went lower. So the good thing about XRP, also, just like Bitcoin, just like Ethereum, is also diverging. So we're going lower, but we're not printing any more red dots. So the strength is weakening towards the downside. That's a good thing. Another good thing is that XRP is potentially forming a monthly demand. And the D marks helps us see that. So here we have some D marks created a local bottom. And then here we have some D mark which created the bottom. And then we had the bull market and eventually corrected towards the bear market, heading the D marks over here, which created the bottom. And then now here we are with more D marks. So the next thing for this to be confirmed is we still have 4 days of the month. So the month has to close. And eventually XRP needs to make its way to the top of the demand, which sits at around 133. So once this month closes, wherever it closes, eventually needs to make its way to the top, which is 133. And then if it does, then we can assume that this is a strong demand zone on the monthly time frame. So those are the two good things that XRP has. We are potentially forming a monthly demand zone, and in the shorter time frame, we are diverging. So XRP always look really bad before it does some crazy move. And the next level that I am monitoring would still be the 50 weekly EMA, which is currently sitting at about 170. So every week it goes down. So if we have a crazy impulse, we could shoot up to about 170, even a little bit higher. But anything below 113 opens the door to 87. We're in a no man's land over here. So if you look to the left, there's nothing really happening over here. It's just a straight line breakout. And the next support is over here because here we held and eventually we rejected. And then we came here, we held, rejected. So we're staircasing down. All right. But I want to show you something the shorter time frame here. This is the 4-hour time frame, and it feels like manipulation. Even without this indicator, it just feels like manipulation. And this is a sign of manipulation over here, the X. Usually when we have the X, it tends to be a local bottom, but the market makers are just trying to shake you out before they push the price up. Not always, but this is a sign. So we'll just see how the month closes. We are trying to find a monthly bottom, wherever that is. And then now we have a potential bottom. And then we'll see what price action decides to do after that. I wish I could say more. Things are not looking good. Sometimes it's just the way it is. Accumulation is designed to shake your conviction and get you scared to buy. Let's take a look at the Silent Stacks dashboard. The signals have not been very clean the past week. And usually when it's not clean, even that's a sign when it's not clean. So the pattern is definitely developing. There's nothing clean about it. Ethereum was a trade that I took, and it wasn't that extraordinary. So here I took this trade over here, but I only rode it for 3 days. So using the Silent Stacks indicator and the dashboard, I did take some Bitcoin scalp. Nothing extraordinary, but it was some successful trades here. So the first one I took was a signal that printed on June 9 to June 10. Here I have the X post. And then eventually we climbed 10%. And this was the move over here. So what I do with these trades is I usually hold it for only 3 days. So the entry was right here. And what I do is I mark 3 days, which is right here. And that's usually my trade. So I enter right here and I leave in 3 days. I don't care about capturing everything. So 3 days look good to me, especially the fact that we were in the 50 EMA. So this was one of the trades I took. And then I did it again over here. So I entered over here and I marked 3 days, which was around right there. And that was another successful trade that I did. And then this one, if you notice, the color is different, and these are higher risk entries, which is displayed on the silent stacks indicator as well. Right here, higher risk. So these higher risk I usually stay away from because it's higher risk. So I built that so it helps us filter false signals. So these are the two trades I took this month. Not much going on this month. This month is a mess. There making it difficult. They're making it difficult psychologically on purpose to shake you out. So at this point of the market, be careful with leverage. Be an investor first and be a trader second. Accumulate for long term, and then if you see setups, you could do swing trades in the short term. That's what I do, not financial advice. And right now we are just hanging off the cliff. There is a lot of fear going on, and the sentiment is very low. So that's usually the time to pay attention, even though it doesn't feel good. Usually, this is the time that you're supposed to pay attention and accumulate for the long run. And usually, you end up walking okay. So, to recap, survive. You got this, all right? If you are interested in the Silent Stacks indicator for swing trades, you get the Silent Stacks indicator on your TradingView chart, you get the Silent Stacks dashboard, and you get the signals pushed to Discord so you don't have to always be looking at the charts. This helps you plan swing trades. If you're interested in that, feel free to check it out at silentstacks.xyz. I will be back July 8th, and hopefully we have better data by then. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found value, make sure you like the video. I post 3 videos per month, one on the 8th, one on the 17th, and one on the 26th of each month. If you like my work, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. You can also follow me on X at 24/7 Stacks for quicker updates. I am growing this account. You are in the right place at the right time. Until next time, take care. And if you want to know a little bit about my story, check out this little cartoon I made here. So this is the Silent Stacks mascot that I decided to create. And I'm also going to be posting some on IG. So I'm using this little mascot to help me market Silent Stacks. This is how my journey started. Check that out. The images came out pretty cool. Don't be discouraged. We're going to come out alive.